Hey everyone, how's it going? Hope your day's going well so far. I go to a lot of concerts. I love music, obviously, and I love seeing my favorite bands live. It's for sure an expensive hobby, no question about that. And I just want to do a tier list of all the bands that I've seen live. These are all the bands I can remember seeing. I hope I'm not forgetting any major ones. Concerts are a fun time. It's great to hear your favorite songs live in the concert and being lost in the moment. So this list is going off how well the band did, how they sounded, the venue, just my overall experience in general. Some of these guys are just openers and most of them are the main act. I've left out some opening acts because I didn't have very much to say about them or I unfortunately forgot. So let me know what bands you've seen live and any interesting stories you have or whatnot. I'd love to hear it. So to show the categories, we have Take My Money, Would Love See Again, Not Bad, Okay, and Hard Pass. So let's get this thing started, shall we? The first band I see here is Sublime with Rome. Not much to say about Sublime with Rome, honestly. I like Sublime, but I was mostly here to see The Offspring. It was cool to see the original bass player and hear the songs I do enjoy, so I'm gonna put them in okay. Next is Law Dispute. I saw these guys not too long ago and they were celebrating the anniversary of their album Wildlife, and I watched them play the whole album from front to back live. I thought these guys were pretty great. I loved watching everyone scream back the words, especially with songs like King Park. There was a moment where the vocalist Jordan sat down and chat about what they went through when making the album and what they wanted to accomplish, and I really loved watching that. I love Law Dispute, and I would definitely go see them again. Now it's time for The Offspring. The Offspring have always been one of my favorite punk bands. Many people argue that Dexter Holland cannot sing anymore, but I thought he was fine when I saw him. Him and Noodles made sure everyone had a great time. They also brought the guy that does the "you gotta keep them separated" when they played Come Out and Play. The Offspring were pretty fun. I'm gonna put them in not bad. Chief State are a local band for where I'm from, and they make pretty good pop punk music. I saw them open for Set It Off and knew nothing about them beforehand. I actually bumped into their vocalist while waiting in line and talked to him for a bit, and now we're friends on Facebook, but on stage they were wild. They had great energy and got the crowd ready for the night. That particular set made me keep an eye on Chief State. I'll put Chief State in Would See again. Next is Muse. Muse were my favorite band when I finally got the chance to see them. They were touring for their album Drones, and if you've seen my ranking, I mentioned that I defended that album when it came out, and so I was even more stoked to see them. I've always heard this reputation that Muse were a huge live band, and Muse did not disappoint. Their stage was in the center of the arena. Dominic's drums were in the center, spinning, and Chris and Matt walked back and forth between multiple microphones. It was amazing. They opened with Psycho, which is a track I loved at the time, and they played Supermassive Black Hole, Starlight, Time Is Running Out, and they closed the set with Knights of Sidonia. I still get chills when I think of the band and the whole crowd going, "No one's gonna take me alive." Just for that alone, Muse has my money. They robbed me. I'll see them again every time. Phantogram. These guys were good. I don't have much to say about these guys. I like their song You Don't Get Me High Anymore, but that's really it. I saw them open for Muse and they were just okay. Up next is actually my first ever concert, Motley Crue. So my mom's cousin worked at the venue where these guys played and she got us a suite for the show. For these guys being older, they put on a pretty sick show. They opened with Saints of Los Angeles and played all the hits like Kickstart My Heart, Dr. Feelgood, Wild Side, Livewire, Looks That Kill. They were my favorite band at the time and I still love them, but for that night, I would just put them in not bad. I remember not being able to understand Vince, probably a mic issue or Vince being drunk off his ass, but I still had fun. The Cult. I actually won tickets off the radio to see these guys. If you don't remember or don't know The Cult, they're an English rock band from the 80s and have hits you probably know like Rain and She Sells Sanctuary. So I didn't expect much from this show, and yeah, I'm sorry, but this show was super forgettable. I remember the sound and the acoustics being terrible. I couldn't understand what was going on half the time or what Ian was trying to say. If I hadn't won these tickets, I don't think I would have gone out of my way to see them. I still love the studio version of you guys, but I'm gonna have to give you hard pass. Rise Against. I've seen these guys twice, so for this one, this will be my first time. This is where they promoted their album Wolves, and I actually really enjoy Wolves. I remember not having a great day during that show, but these guys made it better, and the band that opened for them, which we'll get to, I'll put Rise Against and Would See Again. The second time I saw Rise Against was awesome too. This time I was in the pit and much closer versus when I was in the seats across the arena from the first time. I feel like these guys never put on a bad show. Tim was making sure everyone was okay and seeing if anyone was hurt and just making sure we're having fun. Kind of weird that for their tour Nowhere Generation, they only played one song off that album. I mean, I'm fine with it. I want to hear more classics. Rise Against can't do no wrong. Would See Again. Pierce the Veil. This was the band I saw open for Rise Against in 2017, and they were phenomenal. They were so energetic. Jamie was swinging his bass over his head and throwing his bass up in the air and catching it on time. They opened with Bulls in the Bronx and also played Texas is Forever, A Match in the Water, Today I Saw the Whole World, Circles, and of course they ended with King for a Day. Unfortunately, Kellen didn't show up, but it was still awesome regardless. I'm putting Pierce the Veil in Would See Again. Almost put them in Take My Money, but I feel it's comfortable here. Royal Blood. I saw these guys twice as well. The first time was in 2017. I had a great time seeing Royal Blood. They're one of my favorite bands of the 2010s, and they sounded phenomenal live. While this venue that I saw them in was smaller and more intimate versus the other time I saw them, my friend who I took disappeared and spent his time at the bar and kept asking me if we could leave after the next song, so that annoyed me quite a bit, but that didn't affect the show at all. I would put this show in not bad. They got better with the next show, which we'll talk about, but this one was pretty solid. The second time I saw Royal Blood was much better. They played in a big arena, and I think that's where you're meant to see them. They had these beams of lights that went across the stage, and it looked like they were caged off, and the lighting department did some cool tricks with them. Also, during the show, Mike said he wasn't feeling well and said he might need to step aside at some point, and he was an absolute trooper throughout the show. During one of the songs, Little Monster, he left while Ben played a drum solo, and he must have beaten the shit out of those drums for like 3 or 4 minutes until he came back. Whether he actually got sick or he was letting Ben play out his solo, he was still phenomenal. Definitely gonna see Royal Blood again. Motherfucking Tool. I was so hyped to see Tool. I was towards the back of the arena because that's all my friend and I could afford. Their tickets are always worth an arm and a leg. But this show was so mesmerizing with all the lights, the beams, the background visuals. They opened with The Grudge. They played Parable and Parabola, 46 and 2, Opiate, Schism. Every instrument was crystal clear and Maynard sounded great. If you've seen Tool, you know they sound great, and it's worth the overpriced ticket in my opinion. Tool can take my money. Billy Talent. I saw them on their Afraid of Heights tour. I took my little brother because my family and I went on a road trip, and him and I have good memories of playing their greatest hits a couple times throughout the trip, and this was a great show. Ian's guitar playing was on point, and Ben's vocals have not aged at all. He can still hit all those notes and scream super well. They were very fun, got the pit involved and everyone sang along. I would go see Billy Talent again. Blink-182. I saw these guys in 2016, so Matt Skiba was still in the band and I had a blast. They were promoting California and played the songs I love from California, plus all the amazing songs throughout the catalog like Feeling This, What's My Age Again, I Miss You, Dump Weed, Reckless Abandon, Not Now, Violence, Dysentery Gary, Carousel. Also, I thought Matt sounded great singing these old songs. I thought their version of Violence sounded great, as well as Dumpweed. It was fantastic. I was in the pit with my friend, and everyone in the pit was having a great time. I'm sure I saw a sex doll being tossed around, but I'm not surprised since it was a Blink-182 concert. These guys are going to go in to Take My Money, and I have my ticket to see them again in 2023 with Tom DeLonge, and I'm so excited for that show. A Day to Remember. When I saw these guys, I was actually a fairly new fan. I heard they were opening for Blink-182 when I saw them in 2016, and listened to them, and they were up my alley. These guys put on a hell of a show too. Anyone who's seen them or is a fan can back me up on that. The way they got the crowd involved is amazing. Jeremy got into a bubble and walked over top of us in the pit, so yeah, I touched his shoe. My poor friend, who's not a fan of heavier music and just there for Blink, kept looking at me wondering when Blink was coming. These guys are awesome. I'd love to see them again, and that's where they're going. All American Rejects. I also saw these guys open for Blink 182. They didn't play a lot of songs, only maybe 5 or 6, and got their big stuff out of the way. Their lead vocalist, Tyson, was very snarky and funny. After a song, he was like, "How's everyone doing in the cheap seats?" Tyson as well also still sounds great, and I hope we get some more music from them because it's been a while. They got the night going, and I'm going to give them a not bad. I wish they played a lot longer and played some deep cuts, but again, they were just the opener. Up next is Rob Zombie, and I saw him on his Twins of Evil tour with Marilyn Manson, and I was mainly there for Manson, more on him later. Before then, I could only name you a handful of Zombie songs, and holy shit, guys, go see Rob Zombie. He fucking blew me away. You could tell he was the main attraction of the night. Zombie was dancing all over the place. There was lots of lights, colors, and crazy footage in the background. There was a giant robot or monster walking around stage, and he had the trailer for his new movie, Three from Hell, playing towards the end. Around halfway, he got off stage and ran around the arena, and then he got on this podium at the end and performed Dragula. It was spectacular. Rob caught me off guard and blew me away. He won me over, and he can take my money. Marilyn Manson, on the other hand, what a fucking disappointment. For one, the production value between him and Zombie was night and day. He almost had nothing. You can tell he was having an off night and probably super drunk and couldn't tell where he was. At about halfway, he went to the mic and started smoking a joint, and he told a story about crossing the border. After every song, he changed to a different costume, so he was gone for a while, and at one point he left us in the dark for what felt like 5 minutes. He came back and said something about getting hit in the head with a bottle while he was down towards the pit. He was just a mess that night, and Manson, I'm sorry, you're getting a hard pass. Palais Royale. These guys opened for Zombie and Manson, and I was a fan of them a couple years back when they blew up, and honestly, not much to say about them. I mean, they were fine, nothing too spectacular. They didn't really blow me away live, honestly. They sounded pretty good, but they didn't really stick out. I'm just gonna put them in okay. Next is Wheezy. Weezer was great. Of course, I don't think there's a lot of people out there who hate Weezer. They played at this outside venue during the summer, and by the time they came out, it was nighttime, and it was just a good feeling. Hearing songs like Hash Pipe, Islands in the Sun, Perfect Situation, Buddy Holly. Apparently, according to Setlist.fm, they were supposed to play El Scorcho, but decided not to play it, which makes me disappointed because I love El Scorcho. Weezer are definitely a good live band, and I think I would probably go see them again. Almost and not bad, but I'm feeling a bit nice to Weezer. Panic at the Disco. This was my first time seeing them, and it was actually the same day I saw Weezer. They were both headlining that night. I was pretty excited for Panic at the Disco. Sadly, it looked like I was the only one excited for them. As I said, they were playing before Weezer, so everyone was walking around, getting food, drinks, shirts. No one was paying attention to Panic at the Disco. Sure, there was people at the front of the stage vibing, but I could tell everyone was mostly there for Weezer. Panic wasn't bad that night. That was one of the last few nights where they stopped playing Time to Dance and only played the big hits off their first 2 albums, but the environment wasn't the best. I'll give them not bad. Green Day, my all-time favorite band. The last time they came to Vancouver was back in 2009 on their 21st Century Breakdown tour. So in 2017, I said, fine, I guess I'll come to you. So I got my friend and I tickets and we went to Auburn, Washington to watch them. And I'm not being biased when I say this, but this was one of the best shows I've ever been to. Even my friend, who's a bigger Blink-182 fan and loved their show too, admits that Green Day blew them out of the water. They played for what felt like 3 hours. For guys that have been around for 30 years or so, they still have lots of energy and can put on an amazing show. They also make the crowd a big part of the show. They like to bring people up on stage to stage dive, sing some songs, or play the guitar. This is a night I think back upon and wish I could go back and experience again. I would give anything to go back to that night. Get your ass to Canada, Green Day, because you're going to take my money every time. Catfish and the Bottlemen. These guys opened for Green Day, and I kind of feel bad because they were good. I admittedly was in my head because I was about to see my favorite band of all time, so I don't think it's quite fair to comment on them. I do like some of their songs, and from what I did hear live, I'll give them not bad. Coldplay. I saw Coldplay on their A Head Full of Dreams tour, and while I am a fan of older Coldplay and probably would have enjoyed them more during those shows, this show was actually quite fun. They played lots of classics, lots of old stuffs, and everyone had these bracelets that would light up according to the songs. It was pretty unique, and I love that. I remember Chris stopping in the beginning of a couple songs to get a word in and talk about stuff. I can't remember what. I don't know if I'd see Coldplay again because of their new direction, but I'm sticking Coldplay and not bad. Queens of the Stone Age. These guys were my favorite band for the longest time. Say what you will about Josh, I know he's an asshole, but he can make good songs and play very well. I saw them when they were promoting Villains, and as you can tell, they played a bunch of stuff off of that. To my surprise, they played the song Everybody Knows That You're Insane, which they said before that this is their first time playing the song in 13 years or whatever, and that was special to me because I love that song a lot. They also played Tangled in Plaid, which I never knew they played live, but it's one of my favorite deep cuts from the band. All of these surprises made the night worth remembering, and hearing all those fantastic songs, I'm going to give that night a would see again. Oh boy, Headley is next. I didn't really want to see these guys. This girl I was dating at the time, this was one of her favorite bands, so I took her to see them. Of course I would. I don't know how popular these guys are in America, but they're pretty well known here in Canada. They're a pop rock band, and their vocalist Jacob Hogarth was on Canadian Idol, and yes, that was a thing. The band is no longer active now due to multiple allegations against their vocalist. I remember them being one of the first Me Too movements, but that's not what this is about. How are they live? They were okay. I ain't hate being there, but I also didn't really care for it, so I'll just put them in okay. Sleeping with Sirens. I was really big into Sleeping with Sirens a few years back, not anymore though. I saw them when they were promoting Gossip, an album which I actually kind of defended back then, and I'm not gonna lie, that show was pretty cool. Kellen and his guys brought a lot of energy and slowed it down at certain songs. For that night specifically, I'm gonna give it a would see again. Would be a different story now, but my experience that night was pretty great. Set It Off. Set It Off is a 2010s pop punk band, and they had some catchy stuff. Cody's got a cool voice, and I like their theatrics. I saw these guys open for Sleeping with Sirens back in 2018. I don't listen to these guys anymore as much as I used to, but I have to admit, these guys were pretty fun. I loved hearing the songs that I loved at the time, but I'll only see them if they're opening for a band that I plan on seeing. They're currently on tour and coming to my city, and I have no motivation to see them, mostly because I don't listen to them anymore and they're changing sound, but this performance, I'm gonna give them a not bad. I saw Set It Off again, this time at their own show. I much preferred the first night because this venue they played, it was crammed. It was basically a small ballroom and the stage was so tiny. I could tell they didn't like it there, and the vocalist Cordy started crowd surfing on a mattress and hit his head on the ceiling. Not really a good night. Hard pass. The Neighborhood. These guys are an alternative indie rock band. You might know them from the song Sweater Weather. These guys weren't too bad. They had good atmosphere, played some good songs, just not too memorable. Probably because I'm not a huge fan of them, at least not anymore. I'm gonna put The Neighborhood in okay. This is the second time I saw Panic at the Disco. He was touring for Pray for the Wicked, and he played lots of songs throughout that night. He played Casual Affair, which I didn't expect and took me off guard. It was also funny seeing my little brother at his first concert and who loves Panic at the Disco quietly sitting at the beginning of the show to belting out all of the words towards the end. I love the stage setup. There was a giant triangle on the stage with the exclamation mark like the logo at the time. This show was pretty great. I would give it a would see again. Tenacious D are next. I used to love Tenacious D. I still like them, but not love them as much. I loved watching the movie. I saw these guys on their post-apocalypto tour, so they had this giant screen playing videos for that album that were pretty provocative. The crowd was erupting with laughter. I wonder how many people brought their kids to that. They played a bunch of songs from that album as a whole set, and then after that, they played their greatest hits, starting with songs from Rise of the Phoenix, then to Pick of Destiny, then to their self-titled debut with Tribute, and ended the show with Fuck Her Gently. These guys were fun, but I think it would depend on what they're doing and what they're promoting to decide if I were to see them again or not. But for now, I'll put them in not bad. If I love the album and they're coming fairly close, sure, I'll go. Shinedown. Shinedown put on a pretty great show. Lots of pyrotechnics, cool stage setup. Brent Smith can still belt out and sing. I love the songs off of Attention Attention. Aside from Get Up, I'll never come around to that song. The whole arena sang along to their cover of Simple Man, and everyone went crazy during Devil, Enemies, and The Sound of Madness. Really solid live band. Would go see them again. Asking Alexandria were fine. I was pretty big into these guys for a long while, and while I knew going into this show, this ain't the same band anymore. I know it's not fair to say, I know they don't like playing the old stuff anymore, well, Danny doesn't at least, but they were fine. They looked like they were having a blast on stage. They were playing jokes on each other and cracking up. The music and performances were simply just fine. Okay. Papa Roach. These guys and Asking Alexandria both opened for Shinedown, and while I look back at Papa Roach's back catalog and see they clearly had better days, I know they have their fans, and while I don't care for them nowadays, they actually got me going a bit. I didn't expect that from Papa Roach. Jacoby was all energetic and moved around a shit ton. I was at the barricade, and at one point he came down and walked along the barricade with his hand out, and I grabbed Jacoby's hand, so that was cool. They played Help, which is probably my favorite Papa Roach song, and of course they played Scars, Between Angels and Insects, Last Resort, all that classic shit. Papa Roach was great, actually. Not bad, Papa Roach. Not bad. 21 Pilots were a fucking blast live. I saw 21 Pilots for the first time during their Trench tour, and I'm glad I did because I love that album and still do. And I didn't expect this, but they played the entire album. Not in order, but they played every song, and as well as songs off Blurryface and Vessel. There was a point where Tyler was singing fairly local with his mask on, and he got on a rafter and he fell backwards on purpose and the lights went black. And then 2 seconds later, a spotlight goes up to the nosebleeds and Tyler is right there and finishes the rest of the song, and that just blew my mind. They sounded great and gave me a night to remember, and I'm gonna put them in Take My Money. Senses Fail. Yes, I still love me some Senses Fail. Even though I saw them open for Rise Against, I would definitely pay to see them on their own. They played maybe one new song and then a bunch of classics off of Let It Enfold You and Still Searching. They recognize how old they've gotten by going like, this next song was on Guitar Hero 3. Buddy loves to fling around the microphone, and I still love his singing and screams. After thinking about this for a second, I'll put Senses Fail and Take My Money. After that, we have The Used. I was really excited to see The Used. I've been listening to them for a while, and they have a lot of bangers. I saw these guys as an opener, and they played for a good while. They played 12 songs according to Setlist. They played hard, everyone was headbanging and having a good time, and Bert was awesome and loved everyone there. He encouraged us all to flip him off and say, fuck you. It was great. I would love to see these guys again. I don't know about you. The Used were fun. I still think they sound amazing. All Time Low. I saw these guys last year and they played in my favorite venue, which was like a small theater, but it's pretty small, so no matter where you are, you always felt very close. I was with a group of friends at the time. Well, I was with my best friend, and he had this girlfriend at the time and his friends, and funny enough, it was her birthday and All Time Low was her favorite band, so that was pretty cool. My friend was super wasted, which was hilarious. He only knew a couple of All Time Low songs, but I could tell he was vibing, and he kept yelling at me after every song, "Where's Monsters?" And I just kept saying, "It's coming, don't worry." At least I hoped. I never look at set lists for shows I'm going to. I just love having the surprise, but I knew they were going to play it. And despite all the allegations and stuff towards Jack, none of that was, of course, brought up during the night, and there was nothing bad lingering in the air, if that makes sense. It was a great night overall. I would see All Time Low again. In 2022, I finally saw Jack White. I've been a huge fan for a while, and Jack was great. I liked the album he was promoting at the time, Fear of the Dawn, and I was excited to hear Taking Me Back, which was one of my favorite songs of 2021. I was completely shocked of how much solo stuff he played and how much stuff he played from the White Stripes. He played Black Math, Hotel Yorba, We're Gonna Be Friends, Cannon, Ball and Biscuit, The Hardest Button to Button, and of course he ended with Seven Nation Army. He also played Steady As She Goes by the Raconteurs, which I did not expect. I love that song so much and how he got the crowd involved whenever he sang Steady As She Goes. The whole crowd went, Are you steady now? So good. I would see Jack White again, but on the take my money side. The Word Alive. Admittedly, before I saw these guys, I've only heard of them. I never checked their stuff out, but I saved a bunch of their stuff after seeing them live. I thought they were pretty good. They played a metalcore version of Heartless by Kanye West, and I thought that was awesome, and they got the crowd going for the night. I'm feeling generous. I'm going to give them a would see again. Maybe if someone bought me a ticket, I don't know. We'll see in the moment. Escape the Fate. I saw Escape the Fate in early 2020 before lockdown, and I thought they were good. I know I'm the only person that prefers Craig era Escape the Fate, and I'll down that hill, whatever. They played Do You Love Me, The Flood, One for the Money, This War Is Ours. I got to watch A Wall of Death from up top, and they played Live Fast, Die Beautiful, which I did not expect. I remember Craig was having some technical difficulties. He said he couldn't hear himself on those monitor and was like, can you guys hear me? I can't hear myself, so sorry if I'm way off key. But after that, he turned out fine. I'm going to put them in not bad. Next is Canadian indie rock band Metric. I actually got to meet these guys, and this was my first meet and greet. All of them were super sweet and nice and spent time with everyone there and chatted. The show after was good. They played plenty of their newest record, a couple from Art of Doubt, which was my favorite album by them, and some old stuff, even including Black Sheep. Despite meeting them, I think I'll put them in not bad. For some reason, I can't go any higher. I did have a great time seeing them. Who knows? Ask me on another day, I might go higher. Roger Waters. If you don't know, Roger Waters was the mastermind behind Pink Floyd. The Wall was his baby, and he's not stupid. He's very smart, and he knows you're here for Pink Floyd music. I had a fucking blast watching Roger Waters. He had this ominous intro with the lyrics to Comfortably Numb playing, and started with The Happiest Days of Our Lives and Another Brick in the Wall Part 2. He had The Flying Sheep when he played Sheep. Then after his intermission, him and his band played Money, and then played the entire rest of Dark Side of the Moon. Us and Them, Any Color You Like, Brain Damage, then Eclipse. If you're a Pink Floyd fan, be sure to check out Roger Waters in concert, but be warned, he's very political and rubs it in your face. For me, I would go see him again, definitely. Mastodon. I'm not a huge fan of Mastodon, but I enjoyed them, and they were co-headlining with Opeth, so I was actually very excited to see them live because I heard nothing but good things about their live show, and yeah, they kicked ass. You can tell these guys are tight and are technically proficient. The fact that a drummer can sing and play that technically and do some crazy fills gets a fucking stamp of approval in my book. Everyone brought their A game, and also the visuals were very vibrant. There were lots of colors behind them, and that added to the experience versus if they just had a simple backdrop. They played a bunch of stuff off the new album, and if you know Mastodon, you know their stuff is on the lengthier side, so they only had time for a couple of classics, which I wish they played more of, but it's not a big deal. Still enjoyed the show nonetheless, and I would go see them again. Next is Opeth. Opeth are a band I've been dying to see live for so long. They've only played 8 songs because their songs mostly range between 7 to 12 minutes long. And they played a song from each album from Blackwater Park up to their most recent album. Ghost of Perdition is one of my favorite songs of all time, and when I heard those opening guitar chords, I was sold. I was done, because you never know with their set list what they'll play with them having long songs. I was in heaven. When they said they were going to play a song off of Blackwater Park, I was wondering what it would be, and they probably played my favorite song off it, The Drapery Falls, and man, I was fucking done. This night is complete. And they had everyone sing along to In My Time of Need and ended the song with Deliverance. If you already couldn't tell, Opeth can take my fucking money. Also, their vocalist, Michael, is hilarious. He kept making fun of Canada and poking fun. Go see Opeth if you can. King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard. I've been waiting a while to see these guys live. They become one of my favorite bands. These guys were definitely amazing and fun, but I didn't have the best experience. I was in the middle of the pit and close to the stage, and they opened with a couple of songs off of Infest the Rat's Nest, which is their thrash metal album. So that was the first time I moshed. Everyone lost their minds when Stu brought out his flute and him and Ambrose got the crowd going. Sometime after, I started to feel warm and dizzy because I had a sweater and a beanie, so I had to step away and sit down and use the restroom, so I missed a bit of the show and I lost my beanie and my glasses. So it's not the band or the venue's fault that I didn't have the best experience, but I would see them again, but in the take my money category. My Chemical Romance, one of my all-time favorite bands. I drove about 3 hours to see these guys on their reunion tour a couple months back because they weren't coming to Western Canada, and same thing with Green Day, if they're not coming to me, I'll go to you. I drove for a few hours blasting My Chemical Romance and just had this anticipation built up. I never thought I'd see this band live 5 years ago. So with all that, this night was a night to remember. Just like Green Day, I wish I could go back and relive this night. Gerard Way was so fucking good. He screamed so well. He was goofy. Ray and Frank played their guitar super well. Mike was being a sexy motherfucker as always. And their touring drummer, Jared, was super impressive. I hope he becomes an official member one day. They played so many surprises. I know their set list changed every night, and they played a lot of songs that I wished for. I Never Told You I Do for a Living, House of Wolves, Mama, Cemetery Gates, Our Lady of Sorrows, Destroya, Vampires Will Never Hurt You, and they ended the fucking night with Cancer. They almost put me in tears, man. Just take my fucking money, My Chemical Romance. Take my money as much as you want. I don't care. Taking Back Sunday. I saw these guys not too long ago, and I gotta say, y'all are right. These guys aren't that good. Even their fans can admit they are trash live, even back in the day when they were bigger as well. These guys are definitely a studio band. Adam was just acting weird on stage. I don't know how to describe it. He looked and sounded like someone singing karaoke, but he kept choosing Taking Back Sunday songs. It was great to hear Cute Without the E, Error Operator, What's It Feel Like to Be a Ghost, and Make Damn Sure, but I think I'll stick to the studio version. Everyone seems to have different experiences with them, but for me, hard pass, guys. Sorry. Next is the synth pop trio Churches. I just saw this group recently, and they've always been a band I've always wanted to see, and heard from multiple people that they put on a great show, and yep, I can attest to that 100%. I'm also very glad I saw them during their tour for Scream Violence, which is probably my favorite album by them. Lauren Mayberry sounded awesome, as well as Ian and Martin. My brother and I had a blast seeing Churches, and I would definitely go see them again. In this moment, I saw these guys as an opener, and I'm admittedly not a fan, still not, but these guys were very interesting. The stage setup and the choreography was very solid. They got the concert going, and admittedly it had me checking out a couple songs. I will say for sure though that Maria is a great front woman, there's no doubt about that. I will put In This Moment in not bad. After that show, I saw Slipknot, and Slipknot was fucking crazy. They played for a long night, and they played every song I loved growing up with these guys. Disaster Piece, Wait and Bleed, Psychosocial, Dead Memories, Sulfur, fucking Snuff. They played so much good shit. The stage setup looked so fucking cool. Corey and the other stringed instrumentalists were on the stage while the drummer and the turntable and sample guys were on these high platforms behind them. There were these flashing lights and colors, cool visuals, and lots of pyrotechnics. Slipknot will give you your money's worth and a night to remember. They can do no wrong. Slipknot can take my money. I saw Jane's Addiction not too long ago, and I thought they were okay. I don't think Perry can really sing anymore. Also, Dave Navarro wasn't there. I think he was probably busy with Ink Master or something like that. But they were playing with Smashing Pumpkins, and I'm not a huge fan of Jane's Addiction. I know a couple of songs, and they ended with Been Caught Stealing, and I didn't think he sounded good. I wouldn't pay to see them again, but I didn't completely hate it. Their stage setup was pretty cool, but I think I'll just put them in okay. Next up is Poppy. Now, I didn't know too much about Poppy. I only know that she used to be a pop singer, then she signed to Sumerian, and now she makes industrial metal. I knew a couple songs here and there, but I didn't regret watching her show. She sounded very shy in between songs, and then she sang like a badass, and she can scream too, holy hell. I'll put Poppy in not bad. Smashing Pumpkins. These guys were pretty good. I admittedly didn't have the best seats for them, but they put on a cool show. It was great to hear the classics like Bullet with Butterfly Wings, Cherub Rock, Zero, 1979, and they played a cover of Once in a Lifetime by Talking Heads, which I thought was random, but alright, I love this song. I don't think I'd rush to see them again, so I'll put them in not bad. Tegan and Sara, which was actually the most recent show I went to, and it was better than I expected. Their last album, Crybaby, was a bit of a grower because it was so different, but those songs were a lot of fun live. They're twin sisters, so there was a lot of back and forth banter, and they told funny stories about their childhood and whatnot. Their backup band did a great job, and it was great seeing them in Vancouver, which is actually where they live now. I would go see Tegan and Sara again, absolutely. Jake Wesley Rogers. I saw him as an opener and never heard of him before until I watched him perform, and man, he kind of surprised me. He played some of the catchiest pop songs I've heard in a long time. He got everyone moving and he sang super well. He was all over the stage and dancing and made us all laugh in between songs. He also had us all sing the intro to Welcome to the Black Parade as well, which was neat. I'll give Jake not bad. He surprised the hell out of me, and I hope he blows up bigger. The third time I saw Panic at the Disco, I actually saw him in Las Vegas, which is where Brendan is from, so that felt pretty neat. He played a couple of songs from Death of a Bachelor, Pray for the Wicked, and Too Rare to Live, Too Rare to Die, and then he played the entire album, Viva Las Vengeance, from front to back. Now, if you've seen my review of that album, you'll know that I wasn't too kind on it, but I'll say, hearing those songs live did boost my enjoyment just a bit. I was not miserable the whole time like I thought I would be, but the show was great. After that, they played a few more songs, and only a couple of songs from their first two albums. I still had a great time regardless. The new songs were fun, and I had a great time singing along with my brother. For the third time seeing Panic at the Disco, I would go see them again. Last but not least, Wallows. I got tickets for this band last minute, and I'm glad I got to see them. I really enjoyed their most recent album, Tell Me That It's Over, and even their debut, Nothing Happens. They had a cool stage with all these lamps and lights, and the trio looked like they had fun. They tried to do something towards the end of the night where a piece of paper or something would be under someone's seat and that person got to choose what song Wallows played next, but it didn't really pan out because no one could find the piece of paper, so they just had to choose someone in the front row. And she chose Do Not Wait, which is one of my favorite songs by them. They played all the songs I hoped for. They played Remember When, which is one of my favorite Wallows songs. I would say if you've heard this band and you like them, go check them out next time they're around. I think you would be surprised, and for Wallows, I would go see them again. I debated on putting them and taking my money, but I feel it's more appropriate here. That concludes my list. Here it is. Tell me what you thought of this video, and tell me what bands you've seen live. You can tell me one, or tell me all of them if you liked. I'd love to see them. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, everyone.